blood-stained people, there's a mystery to be solved. An adventure is unfolding, so why not get involved? Come on and read all about it.
I still don't believe it. This Dunedin must have had some sort of body.
Only when he appeared as the mayor, Don Eden. The rest of the time, he was just the head.
How many people knew about him?
No one until he got into the coach house and discovered the transporter. But before he went away, Chris's uncle rebuilt it so Dunedin can't get back to Earth, as long as it's deactivated.
That's good.
Hi, guys.
Hey, look at Chris. What'd you do, Chris? Rob a bookstore?
Very funny.
I know. The library was giving away free samples.
Or maybe he's in love with the librarian.
Could you two stop talking long enough to help me with these?
But of course. Here you are, Lynn. I hope it isn't too heavy for you.
I just might be able to manage.
There. How's that?
Oh, that makes a big difference. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome.
The Shooting of Dan McGrew? This is poetry. You tricked me into carrying a poetry book.
Don't you like poetry, Alex?
Not much. Poems never have much of a plot.
That's what I thought at first. But these do. They're all story poems.
Oh, yeah? What's this one about?
Oh, that's the one Rita mentioned, when I thought I'd made up an original story about a prospector coming into town after finding some gold.
Well, what happens?
Read it and find out.
I might. Hey, Otto, look at all the books Chris has.
Don't you start too, Otto.
What is the purpose of all this reading material?
I'm going to take the plots from different poems and make one story out of them. Then ask Rita if she can identify which poems I used.
I'll bet she guesses every one.
Are you kidding? All Chris has to do is change each story a little bit, and she'll never recognize it.
We'll see. What's your story going to be about, Chris?
Let's see. This guy, he wants to go out west and become a cowboy.
What year does your story take place?
How about 1850? There were lots of cowboys then.
1850. Now, where does our hero begin his journey?
Europe. England, maybe.
Hey, that's good. He could be related to the king. You know, terribly English and drinks a lot of tea.
Oh, I know. He's challenged to a duel, but he refuses to fight. So everyone thinks he's a coward and he's forced to leave England. That's why he goes out west.
Okay, and he flies over to... In a wrong what?
Era is the time period in which a story takes place.
Right, so he goes by boat. Okay, Theta?
Sailing vessels were common in that era.
Good. Now, what happens to him on the boat?
Wait a minute. Whose story is this?
Yours?
Okay, so slow down.
Well, what happens on the boat?
I don't know yet. The idea is to take events from different poems and create a story of my own.
Come on, Lynn. Let's look for a poem about something that could happen on a boat.
got it. The boat sinks.
Why?
Because they see a mermaid.
That's stupid.
No, it's not. It's right here. It's an old sailor's legend that says, if you see a mermaid, your boat will sink.
Really?
Yes, it's all in this poem called The Mermaid.
There's only one problem. If the boat sinks, then your hero drowns, and that's the end of the story.
I didn't think of that. How?
Suppose he swims to an uninhabited island. That's what happens in this poem. Okay, here we go. The night was thick and hazy when the Piccadilly Daisy carried down the crew and captain in the sea. I think the water drowned him, for they never found him, and I know they didn't come ashore with me. Oh, 'twas very sad and lonely when I found myself the only population on this cultivated shore. But I've made a little tavern in a rocky little cavern, and I sit and watch for people at the door. That's how it starts, and he stays on the island until another ship rescues him.
Sounds a lot like Robinson Crusoe to me.
It is. It's called Robinson Crusoe's Story.
But I thought Robinson Crusoe was a storybook, not a poem.
Poems and stories often share a common subject.
That is right. That book also has poems on King Arthur and Robin Hood. Okay, we'll let my character be shipwrecked in the St. Lawrence on an island. Maybe Rita won't guess that I got the idea from Robinson Crusoe.
Then what happens?
He's rescued, of course, and he rides out west on horseback.
Where'd the horse come from?
Oh, I'll figure that out later. Right now, he's out west, and something's got to happen to him.
Okay, how about this? They were coming across the prairie. They were galloping hard and fast. For the eyes of those desperate riders had sighted their man at last. Sighted him off to eastward, where the Cree encampment lay, where the cottonwoods fringed the river, miles and miles away. Mistake him? Never. Mistake him? The famous Eagle Chief?
Hey, that's really great!
It's written by Pauline Johnson, a Mohawk Indian.
What happened to the Indian chief?
He gets shot by the settlers. But you feel very sorry for him, you see. He became a cattle thief only because the settlers took away his land.
We could make your hero one of the settlers.
Yeah.
Suppose he became friends with the Indians and convinced the settlers not to shoot the chief.
And he finally realizes he never was a coward.
And that it's really braver to avoid fights whenever you can, because fighting seldom gets you anywhere.
Hey, that's great. Come on, let's go and see if Rita can figure out where we got our ideas from.
Yeah.
Aren't you coming, Alex?
You guys go ahead. I'll catch up with you.
Okay.
The shooting of Dan McGrew. Kristen, tell me what happened. Here it is. A bunch of the boys were whooping it up in the Malamute Saloon. The kid that handles the music box was hitting a jagtime tune. Back of the bar, in a solo game, sat Dangerous Dan McGrew. And watching his luck was his light of love, the lady that's known as Lou. When out of the night, which was 50 below, and into the din and the glare, there stumbled a miner, fresh from the creeks, dog dirty and loaded for bear. He looked like a man with a foot in the grave, and scarcely the strength of a louse. Yet he tilted a poke of dust on the bar, and he called for drinks on the house. There was none could place the stranger's face, though we searched ourselves for a clue. But we drank his health, and the last to drink was Dangerous Dan McGrew. There's men that somehow just grip your eyes and hold them hard like a spell. And such was he, and he looked to me like a man who had lived in hell. With a face most hair and a dreary stare of a dog whose day is done, as he watered the green stuff in his glass, and the drops fell one by one. Then I got to figuring who he was and wondering what he'd do. And I turned my head, and there watching him was a lady that's known as Lou. His eyes went rubbering round the room, and he seemed in a kind of daze, till at last that old piano fell in the way of his wandering gaze. The ragtime kid was having a drink. There was no one else on the stool. So the stranger stumbles across the room and flops down there like a fool. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt, he sat and I saw him sway. Then he clutched the keys with his talon hands. My God, but that man could play. Then on a sudden, the music changed, so soft that you scarce could hear. But you felt that your life had been looted clean of all that it once held dear. That someone had stolen the woman you loved, that her love was a devil's lie, that your guts were gone and the best for you was to crawl away and die. 'Twas a crowning cry of a heart's despair, and it thrilled you through and through. I guess I'll make it a spread misere, said dangerous Dan McGrew. Then I ducked my head, and the lights went out, and two guns blazed in the dark, and a woman screamed, the lights went up, and two men lay stiff and stark. Pitched on his head, and pumped full of lead, was dangerous Dan McGrew. While the man from the creeks lay clutched to the breast of the lady that's known as Lou. These are the simple facts of the case. I guess I ought to know. They say the stranger was crazed with hooch, and I'm not denying it so. I'm not so wise as a lawyer, guys, but strictly between us two, the woman that kissed him and pinched his poke was a lady that's known as Lou.
Alex, wake up! Wake up!
What?
It's late!
What happened?
You fell asleep.
Oh yeah, I was reading. I think I had a dream. A strange dream.
She laughed a lot, but she only guessed one of the poems.
She also said it was a pretty good way to get a story started. What was your dream about, Alex?
You'll never believe it.